I stand before you as a very proud representative of thousands of current and former State Department and USAID workers, and as the grandson of a Foreign Service officer who dedicated his career to promoting American values across the globe. I spoke on the floor of the House yesterday in opposition to an appropriations bill that once again would slash foreign aid funding. And I said that American investments abroad through the State Department and USAID are, yes, the just and right thing to do. It's the right thing to do to help a community build capacity to combat a terrible disease like Ebola or malaria or cholera. It's the right thing to do. But it's also in America's interest, because no nation on the planet benefits more from a safer, more stable, more secure, healthier world than the United States. And that's why this administration's and this Congress's efforts to dismantle USAID, to retreat from our role in the world, have been such a complete and total disaster. One of the exhibits here references the Ebola outbreak that rages. And had USAID not been dismantled, USAID today would be on the ground helping to coordinate with those local communities based on the trust that they built over many decades of work to combat that outbreak and prevent it, God forbid, from reaching American shores. That's the kind of capacity that has been lost because of these reckless decisions. And I sometimes say to my colleagues, Democrats and Republicans, if any one of us were faced with a child right there starving or suffering from a terrible disease, and we knew that by taking $1 out of our pocket, we could save that child's life, I think all 435 members of the House and 100 members of the Senate would take out that $1. Maybe even President Trump would take out that $1. Maybe. Those are the choices that we face. And it's not just about saving that child's life, although it is about that. It's about a safer, more stable, more secure world that benefits all Americans. And that's why I'm so proud of the folks behind me and so many thousands who have taken up this cause. And while we're in a hard moment right now, I'm actually very optimistic about the future. Yeah. Because I can see that Americans, because of the voices that they hear behind me and so many others, are coming to realize the terrible mistake that this country has made in walking away from these investments. Here in Congress, we founded this year the Federal Workforce Caucus with Senator Van Hollen and Congressman Steny Hoyer, and we're now organized and fighting every single day for the rights of every single federal employee, including those at USAID and the State Department, and we're not going to end that fight until we win. We're not going to end that fight until we stop more damage from occurring. We're not going to end that fight until we undo the damage that has been done. So thank you all so much for being here today. And with that, I'm going to turn it back. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Representative Walkinshaw. Thank you so much. I am now honored to introduce Senator Andy Kim of New Jersey, our ally on the other side of the Hill, one of the strongest advocates for worker rights in the Senate, and someone who knows our work firsthand, having served in both the State Department and USAID. Senator.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you all for coming on out here today. One of the proudest moments of my life was when I got to raise my right hand and get sworn in as a State Department officer. Yes. nonpartisan career officer that was focused on what is best for our country. Not as what is best for a political party or an individual leader, but for our country. In addition to that, 22 years ago, I started my very first day in the federal government at USAID. Walking up to the Ronald Reagan building, so thrilled that I had the chance, me as a son of immigrants, a public school kid, getting to serve the United States. That's what service is about. That's what we need now more than ever. And it broke my heart to have to stand outside that Reagan building last year as we saw our colleagues having to be forcibly departed from there. To stand outside the State Department, to be there at the C Street entrance, a place where world leaders come to visit, and to have diplomacy with the United States now being an entrance that is there for the exit of dedicated public servants who have done nothing but serve this country with honor and dignity. What I have come to understand in the year and a half that I've engaged with this administration is that the reason why this happened is that this administration, the president, cannot fathom the idea that someone is working in government and not trying to profit off of it or push a specific agenda. He cannot simply understand the idea that people are here to be able to serve what is best for the American people ahead of themselves, ahead of politics, ahead of profiting. And that is why we are seeing this attack upon our public service, our State Department. And I hope the American people see that the people behind me, those that were let go, these are people that served you in harm's way. I was in Afghanistan and Iraq. Many have been in war zones. We have served there. And if you want to know now more than ever why diplomacy matters, just look at how much you're paying at the gas tank. Just think about how much is happening because of this reckless war in Iran and how much we can be benefiting by having expertise there, by having people put forward who are trying to do what's right for this nation. That is what is at stake. We have a long road ahead. But I am proud to continue to stand alongside our federal workers, to be able to stand alongside our State Department and USAID colleagues, to be able to make sure that we are pushing forward. I still believe that the United States can play a critical global role. And it is now more than important as we see a dangerous world that we're in. But it's not going to happen on its own. So I will stand alongside my colleagues in the Senate and in the House to make sure that we can push forward and be able to bring back the expertise, be able to push forward a new era of diplomacy and foreign policy, and be able to restore what the American people deserve so much, which is a national security that is working for them, not working for the few and working for those that are trying to profit off of what we know is so sacred, which is our government and our public service. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. We will now hear from some of the people behind the badges. Mariam Saifi is a Foreign Service officer, an AFSA member, and one of our dear colleagues whose career at the State Department represents exactly the kind of expertise this country spent decades building. Mariam.
Right.
Thank you, and really thank you to AFSA, AFGE, in this. We're very united, and it's an honor to stand alongside my colleagues. And thank you to the Congressman for their remarks. On July 4th, we celebrated 250 years of our nation's independence. That very same day, the Department of Government Efficiency quietly disappeared. It made me wonder, what does government efficiency actually look like? A year ago, as Firdos mentioned, at 10 in the morning, I received a notice alongside the 1,300 civil and foreign service officers. I was told my badge would expire at 5 p.m., just like that. So 6 hours to close out a 17-year career in public service. That included the Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, Foreign Service. And for 10 months, 247 of us were just sitting in limbo, administrative limbo, foreign service officers, fired and unfired at least 4 times. The department even advised us at one point, I'll never forget, call 911 if you feel overwhelmed. I remember thinking, that's not even the right hotline. My paperwork said I was fired because there was, quote, no work available. Yet, my position with the Chief Data and Artificial Intelligence Officer was never actually eliminated. So right after I was fired, the department hired someone else to fill my job. That's not efficiency. That's a purge intended to create a culture of fear. For colleagues still serving, the message was clear. You could be next. When people believe their jobs are at risk, they stop speaking up. They look away when they see corruption. We talked about corruption. They're not going to say anything. Their heads will be down. Their lips are sealed. So what does this mean for the American people? Because that's why we're here right now. When war broke out in Iran, many of us, Foreign Service officers, were still sitting in limbo on this payroll. I'm fluent in Arabic. I served in Baghdad. So a group of us volunteered to staff the evacuation task forces. Guess what the department did? They said, no thank you. So we just sat on the sidelines while task forces were understaffed. That's not efficiency. That's putting American lives at risk. A week before I was fired, I launched, very proudly, the State Department's first ever technology diplomacy training float. So this would have sent a dozen diplomats to get smart on AI, quantum, biotech, at institutions all over the US. Georgia Tech, Purdue, Boise State. It was actually Secretary Colin Powell's idea. It took decades to build, to get that bipartisan support, turned to dust in an instant. That's not efficiency. That's surrendering America's seat at the table and shaping tech policy. It's leaving room for China and other adversaries to just fill the void. And let me tell you, it takes years to produce a diplomat, as many can attest. Taxpayers invested over $35 million just in our language training to get smart in Arabic or Mandarin. Now, the department is spending that much and more to train our replacements from scratch. That's not efficiency. That's a spoil system. We took an oath to defend the Constitution, to put service over self, as Representative Kim mentioned. Now, as we look ahead to the next 250 years, we must protect, as others have said, the nonpartisan career civil service that's dissolving under our feet. We must safeguard the ideals of our founders, and yes, that includes Benjamin Franklin. Someone will get the joke. We have one ask. Before you spend millions more of taxpayer dollars training new hires, bring back the experienced diplomats, the ones that are already trained, already security cleared, and already sworn in to serve this great nation of ours. That is what government efficiency looks like. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now welcome another staunch, lifetime supporter of federal worker rights and State Department personnel, former House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer of Maryland.
I've been waiting a minute. Let me thank all of you on behalf of the American people for the extraordinary work you have done. You said it so well, so very well. Each about, we're out here, it's pretty hot here. But frankly, we want to make it hotter. We want to make it more explicit to the American people what irrationally has been done to their government.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
I'll get to you, Kelly. Russell vote, Elon Musk, and a lot of kids that Elon Musk hired who knew a lot about technology and nothing about personnel. Nothing about the objectives and the work that these folks were being asked to do for the people, for the United States, and yes, for the people of our globe, who in so many instances relied on us to make sure that their lives were bearable and hopefully successful. And what happened? In a few days of time, people came in who had no idea of the consequences of their actions. All they knew was how to get to numbers. How many people could they fire? I know we talk about RIF, we talk about voluntary this, baloney. They came in and essentially fired tens of thousands of people with no idea of what the consequences of that would be. You indicated they hired people back because very soon thereafter they found out we did something wrong. We need those people. We need those skills. We need that dedication. We need that patriotism. And so America should be angry that their government was decimated by people who had no idea of the results. So I'm glad to be here. Now, I've had a relatively long career of standing up for federal employees. It is easy to demagogue public officials, easy to demagogue federal employees, but it is wrong. Are they all perfect? Of course not. But the overwhelming majority, 98%, are hard-working, patriotic, extraordinarily capable individuals. And I thank Mr. Kelly, I thank Mr. Dinkelman, and I thank others, and all of you. We're standing out here in the heat. Some are hotter than others. Boy, oh boy. I hope we have the house doctor here if some of us pass out. My colleagues have taken off their coats. I'll probably take off my coat as soon as I shut up. But I want to thank all of you who are here. We need to raise our voices and tell Mr. Vogt, who is running just about everything, and who, when asked, would you give us in committee last week, would you do a study of the ramifications of what DOGE did? His extraordinary response was, we have no intention of doing that. Just as they had no intention of making rational judgments on each one of these extraordinary people. Mr. Kelly, Dr. Kelly, 30 years service in the government. Now, some 20 years of service as the leader of AFG in one role or another. Lives in my district, so I have to be nice to him, although I'm not running again, so maybe I don't have to be quite as nice to you as I was, Kelly. We need to turn this around. America needs these people. The world needs these people. And we're going to keep on fighting until we have a rational personnel policy in the United States government which serves America and the world as the world expects us to do, and we ought to expect that of ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Hoyer. We will now welcome another staunch advocate, Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, a fierce defender of thousands of federal workers in his state, an advocate for investing in diplomacy. Senator Van Hollen.
Hey, Steny. Well, it's a hot day. Are we going to turn up the heat to make sure we reinstate State Department jobs? We are, and I want to thank my colleagues who are here, and you're going to hear from them, and so I'm going to keep my remarks short. I want to start by thanking all of you. I want to thank all of the folks who were working at the State Department a year ago. You're great patriots. You were doing work on behalf of our fellow Americans. You were advancing the interests and values of our country. And so we salute you, all of us. Thank you very much. And to AFG and AFSA, thank you for representing all of these workers. We are grateful for your efforts. We're here because 1 year ago, we saw the Trump administration take an action that disrupted the lives of 1,300 of our fellow patriots, and in doing so, undermine the interests of our country. Yes, sir. So first of all, it was unfair. It was unfair to individuals who have built up experience and careers over a period of time. It disrupted their lives in a way that they should never have had to experience and hurt their families. But they would be the first to tell you that most of all what it did was hurt our country. It hurt our capacity to advance our interests and values overseas in thousands of ways that our fellow Americans don't see every day. But they feel the impact when these important services are not available, when this important work is not done. We have a president who ran on a platform saying he was going to keep us out of war and bring down prices. Well, he's done the opposite. We're in a stupid illegal war in Iran, and prices are going up. The folks who do the quiet work every day to try to prevent us from getting into conflicts, the people who help win hearts and minds overseas, day by day, they're all of these folks right here. They're also the folks who are standing ready when Americans overseas need to be evacuated or face their own emergencies. So in many ways, they're the folks who really are standing up for our country every day overseas. And the administration decided to lose the value of that great work, and in doing so hurt our country. And we all know this is part of a bigger pattern. And it's an effort to try to replace merit-based employees with political hacks.
Yes, sir.
And at the end of the day, that hurts our country badly. We have a career merit-based civil service for a reason. They all recognize that they have to do the work of the administration, but they also recognize a loyalty to our Constitution. And what this administration wants is to get rid of people who are sworn to uphold the Constitution so they can shred the Constitution every day. So I just want to thank all of you for being here. A group of us, you're going to hear some, have legislation to help support all of you, to help make clear that you should all be rehired, and when that rehiring happens, people with experience have preference over political hacks. Pretty straightforward. So thank all of you for your efforts. We will prevail in the end. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Van Hollen. We'll now hear from another person behind the badge, another member of AFG Local 1534. As you've heard, the State Department losses were compounded by the destruction of USAID, an agency built and honed over 60 years and then shattered in a matter of months. Dan McDonald is our second VP of AFG's USAID Local and has stood with our employees through all of it. Dan.
All right, Stan.
Thank you so much, Firdos. Thank you to members of the press, to our steadfast supporters from the Hill, our union brothers and sisters who are with us today. I worked as a civil servant for 10 years at USAID across administrations, most recently on peace and stability in the Middle East, especially in the West Bank and Gaza. I lost a career I loved along with all of my colleagues last year, so I feel very close with those from state who are mourning the loss of their own careers 1 year ago this week and the disastrous hollowing out of this country's most important diplomatic institution. The stories of USAID and the State Department are intertwined. We always worked hand in hand. In Gaza, for example, the peace process is now stalled because there are no experienced diplomats at the table. And compounding that crisis, there are no meaningful plans for reconstruction because the administration fired USAID's experts. This tragic failure of American leadership is part of a pattern playing out in every corner of the world, where the missing badges and the lost expertise they represent have made the United States weaker. We are approaching 1 million deaths of vulnerable and innocent people due to the cuts at USAID. And the U.S. has blundered into a war that has destabilized the Middle East and plunged the world into economic turmoil because we have abandoned diplomacy. Pandemic disease threatens to cross borders and oceans, and the nations of the world are planning for a future in which China overtakes the United States as the world's strongest nation. As is always the case, crises overseas are having dire impacts at home. Dead and wounded American soldiers, parasites infecting our food supply, and the burden of inflation and fuel costs dragging down household finances. State and USAID, international and domestic, these stories are part of a unified narrative. When we cripple our public service, denigrate expertise, and violate our laws and principles, our nation suffers. But out of all this loss and destruction, there is cause for hope. Before this period of crisis began, I was a union member, but not very engaged in the local. I also cared very deeply for many of my colleagues, but those relationships were mostly confined to work. Now here we are a year later. I am a vice president of the AFGE Local that represents state, USAID, and the DFC. I have marched and lobbied and organized with my former colleagues, finding a strength and solidarity that we never knew we had. Together, we have formed organizations for advocacy, mutual aid, and to save lives overseas. There have been moments of joy, like when we marched to declare that this country will never tolerate a king. And there have been moments of sorrow, like when we mourned the loss of Alex Preddy, our union brother, who was murdered by masked thugs. And we are still fighting for our rights, shoulder to shoulder with our fellow unions like AFSA, with our neighbors. We remember the lessons from this country's past, that when faced with fascism and the crises it begets, only community, only solidarity can save us. Let us use that power that we have rediscovered not only to undo the damage at state, USAID, and throughout the world, but also to build a future worthy of those who sacrificed for it. Thank you all for joining us in that fight.
Thank you, Dan. It is now my honor to welcome the ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, a leader who has defended America's diplomats and development professionals at every turn, Representative Gregory Meeks of New York.
First, I want to thank all of these heroes and sheroes. Right. You are heroes and sheroes for the American people. That's right. For the American people. Yeah. And a year ago this time, for no reason, the President of the United States and some of his folks, at random, unexplainable, made no sense, made us weaker as a country, made us weaker as leaders of the free world. Because the individuals that are standing behind me and those from the State Department put America first by bringing America together with all of our allies around this country. Put America first by making sure that we gave a helping hand to individuals that needed a helping hand, that were in the fields to make sure that people could feed themselves, making sure that there would be a peaceful society and we would not have to go to war. A man a year ago sidelined one of the most strongest and most successful individuals and bureaus and units that this country's had. Yes. I will tell you that every day since and every time we were at a hearing in a Foreign Affairs Committee, we're going to talk about it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're going to show what makes sense and what don't make sense. What's waste? The waste is the billions of dollars we're spending now overseas because of incompetence. Instead of sending someone that's competent, that knows how to write an MOU, they sent 2 real estate deals, have no idea what diplomacy is about to write an MOU. They need you. They need you. They need you. Instead of having USAID in the fields, helping people, building jobs and opportunities and resources, what will make people respect America. Working, because I've seen it. I've been on the Foreign Affairs Committee for 28 years. I'm the former chair of the committee. I'm now the ranking member of the committee. I've traveled all over this world. And oftentimes, I forgot to bring it today, when I traveled, wherever I traveled in the world, I wore a cap. And the cap said, USAID. And that's what the world is looking for. Yes, sir. That's who you represented. Yes. That's who we are as Americans. Yes. We don't need an authoritarian or a dictator or incompetency. No. That's what we have right now. Incompetency because they have left our best team on the bench. Yes. Yes, sir. Now, I'm not even talking about just what I believe the criminal activity of taking hardworking people and without notice, many of whom got promotions after they were fired. So you're talking about competency? These individuals made the sacrifice. You know, I praise the military. They are important to our country. But we don't want them to have to get there because we have these people that can prevent them from going to war and losing their lives. We can save lives with these individuals. So I say that this ain't over, folks.
No.
We're going to let the president know this. I'm interviewing people right now for the House Foreign Affairs Committee, because we're going to hold these people accountable.
Yes, sir. Yes,
We're not going to forget.
no.
We're already writing down all was done, because no hearings, nothing done in the public's eye,
Yeah.
all done behind the scenes,
Yeah.
so they can continue to create what I believe is really a criminal activity in firing these individuals.
Yes.
That's not
That's
who
right.
we should be as Americans.
That's right.
And so we're going to stand with you.
That's right.
We're going to fight with you,
Yes.
because we must return America so that people across the world know who we are as Americans.
Yes.
This is really not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an American issue standing for our values, and you stand for the values of the American people.
Yes, sir.
Administration after administration. It didn't matter who the president was. Every administration that I've talked to previously all supported these individuals and said how important that was.
That's right.
But we got now somebody in there, apparently, because they want to make their own personal deals instead of working on behalf of the American people as you have.
Yeah.
Instead of doing something with competency, with merit, with pride,
Yeah.
the sacrifices you've made
Yeah.
for this country.
Yeah.
Instead of doing that, they wanted someone to do things with non-transparency, under the table, and we say as American people, we ain't going for that.
We ain't going for that.
So I say to you, and I say to all my friends, this ain't over.
No, sir.
We're
No,
going
sir.
to fight together.
Yes, sir.
We're going to get this done.
Yes.
We're going to restore you back to where you belong.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure that the American people has the representation so that we can have our representation back as Americans.
Yeah.
You are America.
Yeah.
You are us.
Yeah.
And we're going to make sure that you get your jobs back.
Yeah.
We got legislation, as the senator said, on both sides of the aisle, trying to move and make sure that you are returned at the same status when you were illegally fired. We're going to get this thing done. We're going to do it together. We're not going to stop. On behalf of the American people, we're going to get our diplomacy back and work around the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you, Representative Meeks.
Awesome.
It is now my honor to welcome Representative Don Beyer of Virginia, whose district is home to more federal employees than almost any in America and who has never stopped fighting for them.
All right. All right.
It's hard to come after the wonderful next chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. So let me just speak from the heart. First of all, thank you very, very much for your careers, for all you've done and all you will do, the civil servants, the Foreign Service officers, the USAID. And let me also apologize on behalf of the American people. Elections matter. And sadly, we elected the wrong person in 2024, and we're suffering the consequences. So we're deeply apologetic. We never wanted this to happen. For me, there were two very dark days in 2025. The first was the day they shut down USAID. I was there with many of my great friends. My grandmother worked there 15 years. We paid very close attention. And I followed the Lancet article and Nick Kristof twice a week. Almost 1 million people have died already. We're talking up to 20 million people have died. We look about how upset we were about the 13 soldiers that died in the foolish Iran war. It's 13 people. We missed them. It was a tragedy, but nothing compared to the million and the millions to come. This is as close we get to actually a war crime that we have actually committed as a nation. It turns out it's 13 cents per $100 per American to fully fund USAID. And we have to restore that, not just for your jobs, but for all the lives that you saved around the world. And the second one was July 11th. I had the great honor of serving in the Foreign Service for 4 years. My wife just left 3 years at OBO. And I've been surrounded by wonderful people. I've got a good chance to know Michael Duffin in the last couple of months. And I talked to Michael, and it's like, why don't you just find another job? It's like they're not hiring counterterrorism experts out there in the real world. The counterterrorism expert needs to be in Maine State and meeting with world leaders around the world, day in and day out. Let me just talk concretely. there was a number of things we've tried to do right away. Early on, we introduced the PrEP Act, which basically changes the probationary periods, cuts them in half from what it was, including the silly thing that if you got promoted, you were probationary again. And then we did the Rehire Act, which gives preference to anybody that comes back, just the way veterans have had preference over the years. And then today, along with James Walkinshaw, Dina Titus, our wonderful Chairman Greg Meeks and others, Kwesi, we're introducing what they formerly called the Foreign Service Test-Free Reentry Act. That there's no reason you have to take the FSOT test again when you come back in. I'm sure you'd pass it easily, but still, you do not need the anxiety of doing that. However, elections matter. The next big election is in 16 and a half weeks. It's incredibly important that we win that. Not that we'll change everything in the next Congress, but with Greg as chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, with James leading the Oversight Committee, et cetera, we can do a lot more than we're doing right now. We're in for the long run. We're with you. We believe desperately. I'm a huge fan of American exceptionalism, but American exceptionalism is based on our values that we project around the world. Well, we want to be the leader of the free world, that shining city on the hill, and we don't do that when we fire our best people. Thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you, Representative Byer. I would now like to introduce Representative Mfume, who represents Maryland's 7th District. He has been another staunch advocate for federal workers. Please help me welcome Representative Mfume.
Thank you very much. As someone once says, it's getting hot in here. We're not going to finish the song, though. Let me thank F. Kelly for his leadership of this great union, his stewardship of all the things that matter, and his friendship of many, many years. President Kelly, give him a round of applause. And I want to thank Jimmy Walkinshaw of Virginia for bringing us together like this and organizing this and making sure that we're on record with this. I want to associate myself with everything that was said and to make a sincere promise to you that as the ranking member on the Government Operations Committee, the Government Operations Committee come January is going to operate in a real fashion, where we go after the culprits, go after, if necessary, the criminals, and restore some sense of decency and fairness and pride back to the workers that we've stripped under something called DOGE, the Department of Government Evil. So, before I get away from here, I want to thank my other colleagues as well. I got to go back to work with them. But most of all, I want to thank you. You didn't have to be here, and I want to give you a challenge. There's so many federal workers who are not here for different reasons. Some have been fired or riffed. Some couldn't get off today. Some didn't find out about it. Please, our solemn commitment must be going forward, planning to make sure that we spend time with everyone who is not here, who do not hear these words, who don't see this rally, to let them know that they are not alone. They are not alone. We're going to restore USAID. We're going to restore all of the risks that took place, and we're going to restore, with your help and your work in communities across this nation, the pride that goes with and should always go with being a federal worker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. Our next speaker is another federal worker behind the badge who shows us what less safe means in practice. Megan Fotheringham spent more than 20 years protecting Americans from infectious disease. As Deputy Director of USAID's Office of Infectious Disease, she helped shape a $2 billion global health portfolio. Megan.
All right, Megan. Go, Megan.
Good morning. I'm here today representing one of the missing badges, the Infectious Disease Advisor. I brought this plaque with me today because it represents what has been lost. It was given to a USAID Foreign Service advisor in 1976 after the first recognized Ebola outbreak was contained in Zaire. And for me, it represents 50 years of U.S. commitment to stop Ebola at its source before it reaches our shores. This plaque was on my desk during what became USAID's last Ebola response effort. And when I was allowed back in my office for 15 minutes to collect my things and clean it out, This was the very first thing that I grabbed because it is just symbolic of everything that was being lost. So when we talk about the missing badge of an infectious disease advisor, we're not talking about an abstract title. We're talking about critical capacity that the U.S. government has built over decades and then was dismantled within weeks. The question today is really quite simple. Are Americans safer now that that capacity is gone? And my answer is an emphatic no. No. And I want to be very, very clear. This work was not charity. It is, always has been, and will be national security. Yeah. The most effective way to protect Americans from diseases like Ebola is to contain it at its source before it spreads across borders. And that requires speed. It requires trained staff. It requires trusted partners. It requires surveillance systems that can detect cases early, and laboratories that can confirm them, and commodities that can move quickly, and community relationships that allow responders to stop transmission before fear and misinformation take over. And that is what USAID helped to build. And when USAID was dismantled, the American people did not just lose an agency, we lost an operating system. We lost expert staff who knew the countries, knew the partners, and the ministries of health, and most importantly, an outbreak response playbook. We lost situational and commodity readiness, and we lost field presence. We lost institutional memory that diseases are not theoretical. The dangerous Ebola outbreak in the DR Congo today is unfolding in one of the hardest and harshest environments in the world. And this is exactly where speed matters most. We all know outbreaks do not respect borders, and every day lost to reduce capacity is the day the virus can move faster than the response. And today our system is thinner, it is weaker, and today America is more blind to emerging infectious disease threats, and Americans are not safer because of it. So my fired infectious disease colleagues and I are not abstractions. We are loyal Americans. We are committed and dedicated public servants, and we are ready to protect and save lives. And please put our missing badges back to work. Thank you.
It is now my honor, thank you, Megan. It is now my honor to welcome the man leading the fight for 800,000 of our colleagues in government, AFG National President Everett Kelly.
Okay, thank you. Well, good morning, brothers and sisters. 1 year ago, dedicated State Department and USAID employees were fired and forced out of their careers. That's not the American value. They have spent years, sometimes decades, in service to the American people. They were pushed out without respect for their rights and without respect for the collective bargaining agreements that administrations of both parties had honored for decades. These weren't just jobs, these were public servants. They were the people who helped America escape conflict zones. They united families together, supported our military, they protected our national security, and they represented our country around the world. And when these workers were fired, it wasn't just an attack on federal employees. It was an attack on America's ability to lead, to keep people safe, and to respond with the world facing challenges. The work of the State Department and USAID affect every American because diplomacy helps prevent wars and conflict. It keeps our troops and our families safer. When Americans are in trouble overseas, these employees are the ones who help bring them home. They strengthen our alliances, they support American businesses, they protect the economy and interests, and they keep our country connected to the world. Now, I'm going to keep my comments short, but I want to say this, and I want you all, and I believe you all agree with me, standing behind me are the people that have provided the American principles to the rest of the world. Because they're the ones that make sure, and this is the American principles, when people are hungry, they make sure that they're what? Fed. When people are in prison, they make sure that people are what? Visited. When people don't have clothes on their back, they're the ones that make what? Make sure that they have clothes on their back. And we are here to stand with them and say to the rest of America, please hear us. We are family, and family fight together. And we will stand together until USAID and the State Department is back where they need to be. How many of y'all agree with me on that? We will never, ever go away. We will fight and we will fight and we will fight because family fight together. And when family fight together, family win together. We're going to fight with Congress. We're going to stand with them, our friends in Congress. We're going to stand with the rest of America until the U.S. Department of State and USAID has been reinstated and every person have their job back. And America is once again on top of the world. What do you say? Can we do it? Will we do it? Yes, we'll do it. Thank you, and I love you. And brothers and sisters, you're going to introduce. Okay, listen, brothers and sisters, I want to introduce now my friend and brother John Dingelman. Brother John, thank you so much. Bless you, brother.
President Kennedy, no, stay up here with me. And another thing we're going to hold up is this thing that's kept falling down.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, first off, the American Foreign Service Association thanks our fellow employees from the American Federation of Government Employees. We are grateful for what they've done with us today. For 38 years, I worked for the State Department. And instead of saying anything again, what everybody else has already said so much better, I will simply add my small point that now that I am on the outside looking in, there's one thing that always embarrassed me, even during the time when I ran the administration of the entire Department of State. It was how both groups, civil service and foreign service, lived in different worlds. Different personnel systems, different hiring, different firing, different terms and conditions, and different unions.
Yes, sir. But
that stops now.
Yeah!
If this fight is going to be fought, it has to be fought together. It cannot be won alone.
Yes.
So on behalf of AFSA, I thank you. We are not done. We will carry on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Love you, man. All right. Thank you. All right.
Thank you all for being here today. We have another group coming in right after us. We will take questions from the press on the sidelines. Thank you so much again for being with us today. And to all of our speakers, to everyone who stood with us today wearing the missing badges, thank you.